Hello, and welcome to episode 117 of Design Curious Podcast. I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. Today's podcast is a Q&A for people who have sent me questions over the past couple of months, and I thought it'd be a great time now to answer some of those questions. And before we get into that, I would like to remind you I have some fun things for you in the show notes. You can get downloads on the roadmap to a career in interior design, as well as the 3 things I wish I had known before starting my career. There's also a designer quiz for you to help you understand what type of design you should be doing, whether that's residential or other areas of design. So find all that in the show notes, and let's get to our Q&A. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. So here are some questions that have been sent in from listeners who weren't sure if I had covered these topics yet in the podcast episodes, and I don't believe that I have. And of course, it never hurts to revisit the topics. All right, the first question that I have is how to successfully present a design proposal. And this is a great question because a lot of designers have different approaches for presentations. I have gone over kind of how I typically will do my design presentation. And so what I used to do before I learned from Business of Design method, and before I did that, I would have several presentation meetings. First would be to review the floor plan, make sure that they liked the direction I was going. Then the next one would be to review the final floor plan and then some initial design selections to make sure they like those design selections. Then I'd meet with them again to finalize those design selections. So it's like a 3-meeting process. And now I combine those all into one. And I think that this definitely is a more successful approach because clients, we have to remember, most of the time lack the ability to see the whole project together. And especially if we're parceling out our selection meetings. So if we meet them at the plumbing showroom this time and like, oh, don't you love this faucet style? And then 2 weeks later, we're meeting them and showing them the tile in the tile showroom. Don't you love this? Oh, do you remember what the faucet looked like? Kind of looked like this. Okay. And then this gets strung along week after week, and they're making decisions where they can't remember the initial thing. So the method that I learned from business design and that I do implement in my own business and recommend to other people is to do everything at once. So you are the person in charge of the entire design. You are selecting every single detail of the design that is within the scope. So let's say, for example, it's the kitchen. So you're going to have all of the finishes there selected. You're going to have the backsplash. If you're using tile, you're going to have what grout color it is. You're going to have what Schluter edge if you're using that. You're going to talk about the cabinet color, the cabinet style, and also you'll have cabinet elevations to show them. You will have all of the plumbing fixtures, the sink, everything selected, the accent lighting. So if you have pendants over the island, that will be specified as well as shown on the rendering. You will have bar stools if that's what you're selecting, any other furnishings going in there. Window treatments, cabinet hardware, and you'll have samples of all these all together wrapped up in a bow for the client to look at and instantly say yes or no. And hopefully it's yes, because you've been paying attention to the things that they like. Now, through this process, this is maybe 8 to 12 weeks long to get all of this details together. And during that 8 to 12 weeks, you are the one that's running to the tile showroom and to the plumbing showroom, not with the client. You're doing it on your own. You're making executive design decisions for them of what you think is going to look best for them. And then you are putting it together because why are they hiring you? You are the expert. They want someone to tell them what to do with their home. And you will bring them along in the process in the beginning to make sure that their style is heard, that their needs are articulated. And then you're asking them questions as you're going through the process. You're like, oh, I forgot to ask, do you want lighting in your toe kick? Or do you want a vacuum in your toe kick? Or anything that might come up along the way, you can ask them those questions through the design process. But you're not showing them any specifics until you get to the presentation. And I think this is the best way to get yes on your presentation because everything is there laid out. They can compare the tile, the plumbing fixture, it's all together. The big picture is shown. You have your renderings that are accurate because you've already picked out everything and nothing is a placeholder. Everything has a price to it. They know how much the whole thing is going to cost as well. This gives them so much information that they feel very confident to say yes and move forward. So I think that this is the best approach to do a presentation. Like I said, what's involved with that presentation is you need to have your floor plans. I always include the demo floor plan and then so we can see where we start. Then we do the new floor plan so we can see where we're going. And then I'll have the elevations, a lighting plan, and then we'll do renderings, and all of this will come together. We usually do it in a PowerPoint presentation, as well as printed documents for the client to see, and then as well as samples of every single item. We'll also have itemized pricing lists for them to review towards the end after they've been all excited about the items that they've been shown. And that has been very successful for me for I can't tell you how long I've been doing it, maybe 8 years now that I've been doing it this method, and it works great. So I would say that's how you should do your proposal. I do mine in my studio because I have the luxury of owning a studio space, but of course you will probably be doing it if you're just starting out and don't have an office. You can do it either in a rented space. You might be able to go to a plumbing showroom that has a conference space that you could spread out in, or you can do it in their living room or dining room. Dining room table is probably the best to spread out all of your samples. So just take your time and relax while you're doing that. Tell them to get you something to drink while you're setting up, and then they can come in and just be wowed by your presentation. Okay, another question I had was, how do you organize yourself when you have more than 2 projects going on at once? Well, if you have more than 2 projects, then typically I'll have 5 to 15 projects going on at the same time, but typically they are all in different stages. So I don't think I've ever started 2 projects in the same week where they are leg and leg in the same phase together. We will stagger them at least by a week if we can. And of course, timing of like those initial meetings and the follow-up meetings are usually a challenge to schedule with the clients, and so they will start to stagger themselves. But you have the power to say when the presentation is, right? It's when you're going to be ready. So if you have 2 going on at the same time, you can schedule one for 1 week and one for the following week. Now, you're not going to be able to do these effectively if you don't have a process set up already, which is one thing. Like if you are looking to start your business, I have a business starter kit, and I kind of lay out the process that I use within my own company, the different tasks that I do within each step, and this kind of gives you an idea of what you need to do. You follow this process every time, regardless of the type of project that it is. If it's a remodel for a kitchen or bath, or if it's furnishing just a living room, a kid's room, you're going to run your projects the same way every time. So for me, that's a 7-step process. And every project is going to have the initial consultation. Every project is going to have a gathering phase where we're getting all the information. Every project has a design phase where we're doing all the design selections and the drawings. So each one is going through the step-by-step process. If you only have capacity for like one project at a time, you can have a wait list. You can tell your clients, I'm not going to accept new projects or start new projects until 1 month out. You could meet with them, do the initial consultation, but say, I'm not going to actually start the next phase of gathering information for 4 weeks. is that okay with you? And then most of the time they're coming to you because they want to work with you. So they will wait for your schedule if you need to stagger projects like that. It's okay to have a wait list. So that's how I recommend you have more than 2 projects at once. And as you are growing in your business, you will get more and more projects going at once. And so then you might say, oh, I need to outsource some of what I'm doing. Maybe outsource the drawings or outsource your bookkeeping or whatever's taking up your time that you can't focus on that many projects. That's when you know it's time to scale or outsource. And the last question I have that we're going to talk about today is one person was asking how they can start to find trades to work with or find vendors to work with. When you're starting out, the best way to find trades is, first of all, Google. See what the Google reviews are saying about local contractors. But really, you want to get out there and network. So you could either cold call these contractors based on their reviews, if they have positive reviews, and say, hey, I'd like to see if we could work together in the future. Maybe I can take you out for coffee and we can talk about the different ways that we work and how we could complement each other. And so then you can sit down with them and kind of say, this is how I work as an interior designer. Are your clients ever looking for more help from a designer? Perhaps I could refer you to my clients. And how do you like to work with clients? Have you ever worked with a designer before? If the contractor has not worked with a designer before, sometimes that's a little bit of a challenge. So depending on their personality, they may be totally fine with it, or they might be the type of contractor who likes to design for their clients, and then they would not be a good fit for working with a designer because they're going to design over what you've already done and tell the clients that not to listen to you and that they have more experience. And so you don't want someone like that. You want someone who's going to be on your team and is willing to collaborate and listen to you and trust your design expertise. So that would be the best way for getting out to find contractors. Also networking. So if you go to your local chamber of commerce, local remodeling groups or design groups and talk to other designers, meet the contractors who are there, go into kitchen and bath showrooms and say, who do you use for your contractors? Nowadays, I think people are much more willing to share and understand that there's enough work for all of us. And so if the contractor has capacity from our clients, then he is totally fine if he takes on another designer. I feel like there's much more collaboration nowadays than there used to be. So I think this is the best method for finding trades. And then if you really want to try them out before working with a client and you have a project in your own home that needs working, whether it's just even painting a room, fixing something on the outside of the house, replacing some lighting, your own home is the best way to test out that contractor, make sure that they are timely, that they show up when they say they will, on the day that they say they will, and they do excellent work. So trying to test them on your own dime is one of the better ways to ensure your client that, yes, I've seen their work and they're a great tradesperson, so it's okay to go ahead and contract with them. Then as far as vendors, because I always encourage everybody to, once they've started their business, get their resale permit and then start buying from wholesale vendors when at all possible, because that's the best approach for making profit in your business. And so you're going to want to go to the trade shows in order to find vendors that resonate with your aesthetic, with your style, and your clientele. So that would be going to High Point Market, Las Vegas Market, Dallas, or Atlanta are the main ones in the U.S. But there are some regional. I know LA Design Center, New York Design Center, San Francisco, I'm sure in the Northwest as well, have their own events as well as showrooms open to the trade and to the public. So you can go in there or just call over, and some showrooms carry many lines. And so that might be a way you go around that, as opposed to opening a direct trade account with some of the vendors. Others, you can just go online and they'll have a trade application. So if it's more of a retail facing company, like maybe Williams Sonoma Group, you can apply for a trade application and you can at least get that discount for retail. But you can go back to episodes where I talk about buying wholesale, and that's definitely the way to go as a designer who is supplying furnishings to their client. All right, so I'd love to hear more questions from you guys. Submit them as often as you like, and I will get around to it. At least once a year, I have a Q&A, but I'd be happy to do more if more questions come in. So you can email me podcast@rwarddesign.com or send me a DM with your question on Instagram @rwarddesign. I love these Q&A questions because I know that I'm really addressing your immediate questions and things that are very relevant to you listeners. So those are just a couple questions. I know there are more out there, so please do send me your questions and we'll do another Q&A sometime in the new year. All right, we're getting down to the end of the year here. We only have 2 more episodes we're going to release, and then we're taking 2 weeks off at the end of the year so that you can go back and listen to and catch up on any episodes that you may have missed. There's so many good ones up to this point. I recommend them all, of course. And so take some time to review and get inspired as you're going into the new year. All right, that's all for me this week. I'll have another great episode for you next week. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.